Before this video begins, subscribe and leave a like. Not because I need it, but because if you're still here, this message is already about you, and listen carefully. Do not leave this video early. Do not treat this like background noise. Do not come here for motivation, because this is not motivation. This is exposure, and most men don't like what they see when the truth finally looks back at them. Stay until the end, because what you're about to hear is the reason your life feels heavy, even when nothing is technically wrong. There is a quiet crisis happening right now. Not in governments, not in economies, and not in wars, but inside the modern man. It is a collapse that doesn't make headlines, a decay that doesn't bleed, but rots. And the most dangerous part, most men don't even realize they are the ones causing it. The modern man is weak. Not physically weak, and not intellectually weak, but spiritually, psychologically, and internally weak. He avoids pain. He avoids responsibility. He avoids silence. He avoids himself. And instead of confronting that weakness, he distracts himself with endless content, endless pleasure, endless opinions, and endless comfort. And then he wonders why his life feels empty. Let me be clear. This is not society's fault. This is not your parents' fault, and this is not the system's fault. This is your fault. Because weakness is not something that happens to you. Weakness is something you allow. And every time you choose comfort over discipline, dopamine over duty, or escape over effort, you vote against the man you could become. Listen closely. Weakness did not appear overnight. It was trained, slowly, comfortably, and conveniently. You were not attacked, you were seduced. Because weakness today doesn't look like failure, it looks like entertainment. It looks like pleasure. It looks like taking a break or telling yourself, you deserve this. And that is exactly why it works. Comfort is not evil by nature, but when comfort becomes your default state, it becomes a weapon against you. Comfort removes urgency. Comfort dulls hunger. Comfort silences the inner voice that tells you something is wrong. A man in constant comfort never sharpens himself. Why would he? There is food without effort, pleasure without intimacy, validation without achievement, and identity without responsibility. And slowly, the edge disappears. You are not addicted to pleasure, you are addicted to escape. Dopamine is not happiness. It is anticipation. It keeps you chasing, scrolling, clicking, and consuming. Always stimulated, but never fulfilled. And here's the truth most men don't want to face. Every time you overstimulate yourself, you weaken your ability to endure boredom, silence, effort, and pain. These are the exact traits required to build anything meaningful. This is why discipline feels unbearable to you. Not because it's hard, but because your nervous system is fragile. A man trained on instant reward perceives effort as suffering. A man trained on constant stimulation experiences silence as anxiety. A man trained on comfort interprets responsibility as oppression, so he avoids it. And then he calls it burnout, or lack of motivation, or not being in the right mindset. But deep down, he knows the truth. The greatest loss of the modern man is not strength, it is inner authority. It is the ability to command himself. To say, this is uncomfortable, and I will do it anyway. This is boring, and I will stay. This is painful, and I will endure. When you lose that authority, your impulses become your rulers. Your mood decides your actions, your cravings dictate your day, and your fears write your future. And the man ruled by impulses is not free, he is managed. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you said, I'll start tomorrow? How many times have you felt the call to change and drowned it with distraction? How many times have you chosen relief over respect for yourself? This is not about guilt. This is about awareness. Because you cannot defeat an enemy you refuse to name. Now that you understand how weakness was created, the real question is far more dangerous. Who benefits from it? And more importantly, How do you reverse it before it becomes permanent? Listen closely. There is one word the modern man avoids more than pain, more than failure, and more than truth: responsibility. Because responsibility means this: no one is coming, no one owes you anything, and no one is responsible for your life but you. For a man raised on comfort, this truth feels violent. Responsibility exposes something terrifying. Your life is the result of your choices. Not your parents, not society, not the economy, and not your past. Your choices. That's why responsibility feels unbearable to weak men, because it removes their favorite drug, the excuse. Blame is comfortable. Blame means you can suffer without transforming. Blame means you can feel morally superior while staying exactly where you are. That's why weak men cling to narratives of victimhood, oppression, or bad luck. Some of these things may be real, but here is the truth: a man who waits for fairness dies waiting. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They did not ask, "Is this fair?" They asked, "What is required of me now?" They did not beg reality to change. They trained themselves to meet it. As Epictetus said, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will go well." This is not resignation. This is power. Responsibility is not punishment. It is the forge. It is the moment a boy stops reacting and a man begins deciding. It is the moment you stop asking, "How do I feel about this?" and start asking, "What must be done?" This question alone separates men from the masses. But here's the problem. The moment you choose responsibility, something inside you fights back. A voice, an impulse, a craving. Not the world, but you. And that is what we must face next. The most dangerous enemy in your life does not live outside you. It does not wear another man's face. It does not speak with another man's voice. It speaks with yours. That voice that says, "Tomorrow, you deserve a break. It's not that serious. You'll do it later." That voice sounds reasonable, calm, and logical. But it has one purpose: to keep you exactly where you are. This enemy doesn't attack you violently, it sedates you. It numbs your urgency. It softens your standards. It negotiates with your discipline. It doesn't tell you to fail, it tells you to delay. And delay is how men rot quietly. The Stoics knew this enemy well. They called it passion, impulse, or the untrained mind. Marcus Aurelius warned himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say the world would become easier. He said you must become stronger. Every day you wake up, there is a silent battle, not between you and the world, but between the man you could be and the comfort you already know. The man you could be demands effort, discomfort, repetition, and sacrifice. Comfort demands nothing. That's why most men choose it. So how do you defeat an enemy that lives inside you? Not with motivation, and not with emotion, but with something colder: discipline. And that is where the real transformation begins. This is not resignation. This is power. Responsibility is not punishment. It is the forge. It is the moment a boy stops reacting and a man begins deciding. It is the moment you stop asking, "How do I feel about this?" and start asking, "What must be done?" This question alone separates men from the masses. But here's the problem. The moment you choose responsibility, something inside you fights back. A voice, an impulse, a craving. Not the world, but you. And that is what we must face next. The most dangerous enemy in your life does not live outside you. It does not wear another man's face. It does not speak with another man's voice. It speaks with yours. That voice that says, "Tomorrow, you deserve a break. It's not that serious. You'll do it later." That voice sounds reasonable, calm, and logical. But it has one purpose: to keep you exactly where you are. This enemy doesn't attack you violently, it sedates you. It numbs your urgency. It softens your standards. It negotiates with your discipline. It doesn't tell you to fail. It tells you to delay. And delay is how men rot quietly. The Stoics knew this enemy well. They called it passion, impulse, or the untrained mind. Marcus Aurelius warned himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say the world would become easier. He said you must become stronger. Every day you wake up, there is a silent battle, not between you and the world, but between the man you could be and the comfort you already know. The man you could be demands effort, discomfort, repetition, and sacrifice. Comfort demands nothing. That's why most men choose it. So how do you defeat an enemy that lives inside you? Not with motivation, and not with emotion, but with something colder, discipline. And that is where the real transformation begins. No man becomes powerful without losing something. That is the rule no one wants to talk about. Every transformation demands a funeral. Modern culture sells a lie that you can evolve without sacrifice. That you can keep every habit, every comfort, every relationship, and every pleasure and still become extraordinary. That has never been true, and it never will be. To become disciplined, you lose comfort. To become focused, you lose distraction. To become respected, you lose approval. To become dangerous, you lose the version of you that wanted to be liked. This loss is not optional, it is the entrance fee. Most men don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they hesitate at the moment of loss. They reach the door, they feel the cost, and they step back. Not because they can't pay it, but because they still love who they used to be. The Stoics understood something brutal. You cannot gain a higher self without abandoning a lower one. You don't add strength to weakness. You replace weakness with strength. Evolution is subtraction before it is addition. At some point, discipline will ask you for proof. Not words, and not intentions. Proof. And the proof will hurt. That is the moment where men are separated, those who retreat and those who rise. Because after sacrifice, there is no return. Only identity. And the next question becomes, who are you when the old version is gone? What you are about to hear is not motivation, it is a warning. Because once you truly see this, you can never unsee it. Most men think they are trapped by circumstances like money, time, opportunities, or other people, but that's a lie. The strongest prison is identity. It is the sentence you repeat in your mind, telling yourself this is just who I am. That sentence has destroyed more lives than failure ever could. The brain is wired for survival, not truth, and survival means familiarity. So when you attempt to change, when you threaten old habits, old comforts, and old identities, your mind reacts as if you are dying. Anxiety rises, resistance appears, and excuses become louder. This isn't because you're wrong, but because the old version of you is fighting for its life. There is a version of you that exists only to keep you small. It knows how to talk, it knows how to justify, and it knows how to delay. It calls itself realistic, but it is a parasite, and parasites do not negotiate. They must be removed. The Stoics understood this with brutal clarity. You do not argue with weakness, you replace it. You do not wait for confidence, you act without it. You do not protect the ego, you starve it. And that starvation feels like death. Good. That means it's working. After the old self collapses, there is silence. No motivation, no identity, and no applause. Only emptiness. Most men panic here, but this is the most important phase because the void is where discipline is born. Discipline is not emotion. It is not motivation. Motivation is unstable, but discipline is structural. It is doing what must be done regardless of mood, regardless of energy, and regardless of feeling. It is the quiet decision to obey reason instead of impulse. The Stoics had one obsession: control. Not control over the world, but control over the self. They understood something modern men forgot. If you can command your thoughts, your reactions, and your behavior, the world loses its power over you and you become unshakable. This is not a one-time decision. This is a daily war. Every morning you choose comfort or mastery, excuses or responsibility, impulse or discipline. No one is watching, and that's why it matters. If you walk this path long enough, you change. Your voice slows, your posture sharpens, and your presence carries weight. You no longer chase validation, you no longer fear silence, and you no longer need permission. You become calm in places that break other men. Listen closely. The world does not need more confident men. It needs disciplined ones. Men who can stand alone, men who can endure discomfort, men who can delay pleasure, and men who can command themselves. That is real power. If you are ready to pay the cost of mastery, not in words, but in action, subscribe and begin forging the life you are meant to live. No shortcuts, no illusions, and no comfort. Only discipline. Only truth. Only evolution. This is not entertainment. This is a path. And now, the choice is yours.